building. We'd like to welcome the public today, would like to welcome you here that's come to participate. I don't think we have any opening statements, so we'll start with a word of prayer. Travis Keel has consented to give us a word of prayer. Travis, if you'll just stand up, come up, and I'll ask Commissioner Lyman if she'll lead us in the pledge. So go ahead.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for our many blessings. We're thankful for the opportunity to be here in Millard County. We're thankful for the folks that live here and for the elected officials that serve them. We ask thee for thy spirit to be with us today to help guide and direct the discussion, so we can do what's in the best interest of those that are here. Father, we're thankful for the moisture we receive and ask thee to continue to bless us so that we may prosper. And we love thee and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To the minutes of, what is the date? The second day of May, 2023. Commissioner Lyman.
I noticed one correction. We need on line 2.
Okay.
Instead of Commissioner Warnick, it should be Commissioner Wright.
Oh, my gosh. That's a big mistake.
Bill, I thought you could get that off the bat.
I didn't catch that.
Other than that, that's the only thing I noticed.
Okay. Anything else? Commissioner Johnson?
No, I looked through it the other day and it looked fine.
Okay. Need a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from May 2nd, 2023.
Okay, motion that we accept the minutes with the one change. I need a second.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion to that? Seeing no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Follow-up action items. I have just I think a couple things here. Commissioner Lyman, we talked about in the minutes, the RV hookups. I guess we haven't got anything conclusive on that yet. I think Kevin's kind of been off work and
Yeah.
he's been hard, so.
He was going to talk to Attorney Finlinson and see what they could do legally, because they couldn't do it the way we had suggested, according to the RV park manager, his software and things went forward with that.
Okay,
Well, what I said in the last meeting is the threshold question is, what procurement tier is it going to be in? So that's what we had said is, two things we need to know. We need to know what procurement threshold. In other words, are we gonna be paying this guy less than $15,000, between 15 and 75, or more than 75? And we understand that can't be done with any real precision, but he's a businessman, so he should be able to project and get us an idea of what our fee to him will be, what the management fee will be. And then we can move forward with the procurement. And then the other question was just, where will the money go? And so it's really not being held up on any legal grounds. We just need to know those two things.
okay. I think Kevin's had some time off work sick, so hopefully I'll get with him or Vicky can get with him and see if we can get something so we can proceed on the agenda next time.
But
Okay?
Lisa's working with him on an agreement so that'll be ready to go.
So Lisa, okay.
But we just need to know, my sense is the fee's probably gonna be less than $15,000, so we can just do it.
Yeah.
As long as as that fee is budgeted for. We may need to open the budget, but we'll have something ready as soon as we can answer those questions.
So Commissioner Lyman, will you kind of work and follow through so we can get, if we're going to do something, let's either move past it or get it done. One or the other, so we don't have to keep talking about it. So maybe
Yeah,
that.
I'll get with Kevin again and we'll talk to the RV manager.
And if you guys could speak into your mics, we're having
Trouble hearing, okay. Also, we have in there, the state was coming down to meet with the irrigation companies in Delta, I think. Did that meeting happen? Do you have any report on that? Or?
There were only about 20 to 30 people that showed up. I don't think there's that many people that are that concerned about it anymore.
Okay.
I know that
Nothing.
they showed some slides of the snow
Did you two
water.
both go then?
No.
Okay.
But I know they showed some slides of the snow water equivalent, and we're dropping off faster than we did back in the 80s, and so it's, I know they had a couple of slides that just relieved a lot of people's concerns about any of the flooding that they thought were gonna happen.
Okay.
So,
All right.
in fact, most of the people that were crying about the flooding have now decided there may not be enough water, so it is changing direction.
Now, some would probably want more, when it's winter, we don't want them.
Yeah, so I know that's, at least on the west side, the farmers that were concerned about it are now concerned that, like I said, there's not enough water, so.
Okay. And there's one more item here, follow-up. We talked about the sheriff and we talked about the alleviation on Jones Road out there. And I noticed in her minutes, Attorney Fennelson said that this request would require a resolution. So I guess we are going to maybe address that next time, so you're aware of that. We'll need to have something fixed up for that, okay? All right, I have nothing else. Follow-up, financial review. Do we have any items, or, go ahead, come on up. You act like you don't know what you're doing, like me, or, that's all right. You haven't had to do this before, have you?
So you've all been emailed the month-end reports for April, and Auditor Smith, Treasurer Dearden, Commissioner Wright, myself, and Deputy Bennett was in that meeting on the 16th with the detailed review, and it was correct. So,
Everything went correct?
yeah.
Yep.
Do you guys have any questions?
Nope.
Does it matter who signs first?
No.
Yeah, look good.
Auditor, go ahead. Do you got anything,
I
or?
don't have anything else to add unless you
Okay.
have any questions.
No questions, I guess we're done. Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have Travis Keel, who's with 6th County, and he informed us for the last 60 years, we haven't, 70 years. Go ahead and present what we need to know, Travis.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
And he reminded me that I was supposed to report this to you previously, and I didn't, so I apologize.
No, you're doing great. I've learned quickly that I need to add the county attorneys to my email list to make sure they get everything that they're supposed to review. But no, I appreciate the relationship, appreciate you guys being part of the 6th County AOG. I think we're doing a lot of good and getting some things done. So you've kind of heard me previously report on this a little bit. We're kind of going through a process to create a new interlocal agency as we looked at how 6th County was originally formed back in 1969 and then kind of revised in the 80s.
So can I just, before, I want you to go on, but explain to us the difference between, the items, the difference between the way we was organized and what is we do it all the time. What does interlocal actually mean?
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate that. So we were formed as a corporation originally. So in 1969 is when the state of Utah passed the legislation that allowed counties or cities or other government entities to form an interlocal agreement, or actually an interlocal agency. So there's a little difference there between an interlocal agreement and actually an interlocal agency. So that legislation allowed 8 government entities to create a whole new agency.
So what is UAC?
So UAC, I believe, is actually a nonprofit.
Okay,
They are not a government entity.
so it's set up different, it's
It is
not a
different,
government
yep.
entity, they provide a service, so it's
Correct.
different than.
Yep, so
Okay.
in 1969, there were 7 AOGs created across the state, and obviously all counties are part of an AOG, and we were one of those 7. Again, for some unknown reason, 6 of them did it correctly and formed an interlocal agency, and 6 counties filed a corporation, which is fine. We haven't done anything illegal. We've been operating just fine as a corporation for the last 53 years. The IRS has us down as a government entity, so we don't pay taxes or anything. But we would very much be best served as an interlocal agency. That does provide some governmental benefits to it versus just a corporation. That's really how we should.
What are those benefits?
The big one our attorney loves is governmental immunity, right? Not that we're going to screw anything up or do anything wrong, but at the end of the day, there is a thing called governmental immunity. And corporations have similar benefits to them, right, to protect their members, but not near as well as government immunity. So right now, our corporation, we have to refile that every year, and our 12-member board kind of acts as the caretakers of the corporation. And so there could be some liability there, to the counties as members and/or to that 12-member board. And so, in our agreement, again, we're running 65 state and federal contracts right now, and all of those are under the assumption that they're contracting with a government agency, right? And again, so nobody's deceptively deceived any of those or anything. We still consider ourselves a government entity, but we've just been filed as a corporation. So we'd like to fix that, obviously, and correct that. And the best way to do that is we've worked with our attorney is we just have to create the whole new agency. And then I'll be honest with you, it's going to take some time, right? It'll probably take us a full year to transition all of those 65 contracts, everything we own over to the new entity before we completely dissolve the 6-county corporation. And so our goal right now is to get that new interlocal agency created and established, and we do that through an interlocal agreement that's being reviewed right now. Once that's signed by the 6-member counties, then the attorney actually submits that. It's through the lieutenant governor's office that those get approved and become official. And so once that's done, then that entity will be created and official, and we'll start transitioning everything over to that new agency over the course of the next year.
Commissioners, questions?
Sounds like it needs to happen, and as long as Attorney Finlinson thinks it looks good the way it's written up, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I'm working here to just convert their template resolution into our format so we can get this done today, but this won't change anything in terms of how Millard County interacts with 6 counties. We won't feel anything. It's simply a paper change. It's just changing them from a nonprofit to an interlocal entity.
We are going to rebrand as part of the process, and you can see it on the agenda item, so we've
But you're
gone
not
through
going to
it.
name it after Sanpete County, I hope.
We're not doing Bartholomew and Friends. That's what he
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah, so we're definitely not doing that. We've
Hey,
done-
I might be half partial to that, okay?
So anyway, the new entity will be called R6 Regional Council. We'll still be known as an AOG, right? That term has been branded throughout the state. There is one other, Wasatch Front is a regional council. The Southeast AOG is going to switch to Southeast Regional Council. It's just a lot easier to say and kind of go off of. So that we are rebranding, as you're well aware. We're building a new administration building over in Richfield. Should be completed in December. And so, right now, this will all just kind of probably take place on paper, and we'll be working to transition everything over to the new entity. And then in December, when we move into the new building, we'll really do a big marketing campaign and a branding campaign to kind of kick off the new agency and move forward in 2024.
Okay, any more questions? So what I need is a tentative approval to move forward, and that tentative approval will be upon,
I'll tell you what, if you can,
Have
if
you
we
got it
can
ready,
just, if we can,
Want to move on and come back to it?
if we can approve the agreement right now and then come back in just a few minutes to the resolution,
Okay.
I think we'll be ready to go. We won't need to do a contingent on anything.
okay, so what we
Okay.
need is a motion to approve the agreement. And then before we conclude the meeting, maybe Attorney Finlinson will have it ready for us, we can approve the resolution.
I make the motion that we approve an agreement to establish an R6 regional council
Okay.
as an interlocal entity.
I second.
A motion and second, we approve the agreement. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Seeing none, thank you, Travis.
Okay, thank you.
We will hopefully conclude this by the end of the
Okay,
day, so you're
thank you.
welcome.
We'll see y'all tonight.
You're welcome to go. Yeah, we'll see you tonight. Pat, we're back to you again. Discussion and possible decision regarding use of opioid settlement funds. And maybe Bonnie or,
I think this will involve probably the auditor and the treasurer's office, but we have received a little bit of the money from the opioid settlements, and like our recently gone treasurer, I had thought that we only had to report when and if we used the money, but we learned there's a report due by the end of this month on what our plans are. We have to provide them with a plan for how we're going to use the money that we've received. And to be honest, the settlement manager doesn't even have a portal set up to receive those reports, so we're just sending them to the UAC representatives, but to be safe, we wanted to have that in by the end of May, which won't be a very detailed report, but I just wanted to have some conversation today, and I'd hope we'd have someone from the sheriff's office here, because I think the restrictions are that it's used in some way for addiction remediation, for opioid remediation. Millard County, we've obviously had our share of overdose deaths, but we've also had just a lot of the other tragedy associated with addiction. And like everywhere else in the nation, we're moving from the drugs that we've been familiar with for a long time to just being flooded with fentanyl. In fact, if a person buys heroin on the streets, they're probably actually buying fentanyl. And there might be heroin, but it's always cut with fentanyl because it's so cheap and easy to get, and it's everywhere.
explain a little, explain, is fentanyl an actual drug, but it can be overdosed on more quickly? What is fentanyl? I mean, I hear all this late, but I don't even know.
Yes, and yes, so fentanyl was first
Is it an
introduced.
actual drug, but it can just be overdosed on?
Well, I
Or
mean,
what?
all drugs can.
Yeah.
Fentanyl has been around for a long time in one form or another. It's been used as part of general anesthesia. It's been used as part of an epidural. And most common to most of us, historically, fentanyl was used in those Duragesic patches. But it's I would guess probably 10 or 15 years ago, they introduced what's known as fentanyl U. It's a more potent version of fentanyl that's, I don't know how many times more potent than heroin it is, but it's a lot more potent,
So,
multiples.
I hear the term fentanyl laced. Is it laced with fentanyl for the purpose of actually taking people's life or to enhance their,
Well, I mean, who knows? There may be
I guess.
there may be some nefarious,
yeah, but mostly to enhance their drug experience?
well, mostly because it's cheap and it's easy.
Okay, all right.
It's,
So, yeah, okay.
it's a really cheap way to make your dope go further.
Okay, enhancement
But
more.
the user on the street doesn't know what they're getting. They may think they're buying a couple grams of heroin, but it's laced or it's cut with fentanyl, and suddenly it's more than they can take, and it arrests respiration and they die. We've actually had quite a few recent experiences with overdoses where Narcan has been used. I think most of our deputies now have Narcan with them, that it's the substance that will reverse the effects of most opioids.
Okay,
But, I mean, I don't know what the answer is to that, and I don't think we have to answer that. We don't have enough money to answer that. I think we've got about $30,000.
how much money have we got? And I can't remember, but
Yeah, so when we,
do you want to come to the mic and talk into the mic and talk loud?
So our budget is 29,000, and it's tracked in a separate fund in special projects. and
Well,
it's only
special
part-
projects is
Yeah.
put in special.
So that
okay.
meets the requirement. And then I believe the actual funding came down, it was a little bit more than that, so if we intend on spending all of that this year, then we would need to amend the budget.
So, Pat, do we, I guess, help me understand, do we need to develop a new, have we got programs already we can just enhance what we're doing? Or do we need to develop something new?
No, we don't need to develop, with this.
Okay,
isn't
we got
enough-
programs, we
this
just
isn't
need to
enough
decide
money
where we
develop
want to put it.
something
Okay.
new. What, like I said, it's limited loosely to addiction remediation. That could be treatment, and we have Central Utah Mental Health, which is our local mental health provider. They do all of the most of the drug treatment that's associated with, they're associated with the state Department of Health. We have a drug court program in Millard County that's somewhat limited in terms of numbers. That could be, I mean, we could look at possibly expanding that to include Class A misdemeanors. Right now, it's certified as a felony drug court, and it's been that way for a long time. Of course, 5 or 6 years ago, they reclassified most possession offenses to Class A misdemeanors. So those people usually aren't qualified to get into drug court. That's something we could explore, is expanding that. And the other kind of obvious one is something to do, some law enforcement related task force, our drug task force, something like that. But I think the hope is that this money would be used in some way to enhance treatment opportunities and alternatives. The amount of money.
Treatment or prevention? More treatment than prevention, or?
Well, prevention too, that can absolutely be part of it, but those are kind of some of the challenges. I was hoping somebody from the sheriff's office would be here to kind of discuss this today, but what we need today is I guess, approval to move forward and prepare this report, and just kind of your ideas, your thoughts on how we could,
Okay, who prepares it, you and the auditor?
yeah, we'll do it.
With our oversight, I guess, okay. Commissioners, go ahead.
Could it go towards a public speaker type of person for the high schools to make the kids more aware of the issues and the concerns? I don't, maybe that's a bad idea, I don't know, but I'm just wondering is that something that could possibly?
Yeah, it could.
That might not be the right area, and I don't know, I'm just trying
Absolutely. The
to.
only reason I smile is I just asked, do we want to make them more aware?
Well, no, that's, and I thought the same thing, they may not know that.
Well, that's what I thought
This in
about.
school, so maybe I'll give it a try. That is a concern, that crossed my mind before I spouted it out, but
I want to get my hand on some of this kind of, I've heard so much about.
but that crossed my mind before I said anything, because.
Well, that's a question I had on prevention, maybe.
How do we, just trying to find a good place to put it. And I do know, so we had the fire district meeting last week, and they talked about getting Narcan for each of the fire stations. So they had, I don't know if it comes in cans or syringes, I don't know what it comes in, but for the fire districts. And that was the only thing that the sheriff, we discussed, other than some financial stuff, was fentanyl.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be a little bit of a job, I guess just an accounting job to do anything through the fire district, but we could make that a law enforcement issue and have Narcan available in the communities through, as sort of a sheriff's office initiative. That's a possibility. If we were to say, what we want to do with our money is explore expanding drug court, explore expanding availability of Narcan as one, explore expanding the different prevention programs. I'm a little bit cynical about the different prevention programs for youth. I'm not totally convinced they usually hit the mark. Maybe Dennis or Vicky have different or similar views, both having been in public education, but
Well, so would that qualify us if we can list some of these items to explore, not do we have to be particular, or just tell them where we're looking and
Well,
so we
they'll
got
need a
some time?
spreadsheet, but I think with the commission's approval, I think Bonnie and I can put that together and kind of allocate
Yeah.
what we've got out to those different areas.
That's what I'm thinking. At this point in time, I think we need to have the sheriff's office input of where they think, the bottom line is where we can best maximize our dollars. Where do we really put it? And to make sure that where we put it, that when this money actually evaporates, that whoever's getting it don't come back and say, well, you was doing this and now you have to do it, because this money will run out. We don't want to build a foundation we can't
Well,
support,
in
too.
24 years, is that how long they spread it out?
Yeah.
Our settlements are, we have,
Oh, by the way, I'll be dead by then. I don't have to worry about it, or,
we're getting like $20,000 from each distributor for 24 years.
is it 24 years? What's the total each year?
You know, I didn't bring it up with me, unfortunately, and I'm trying to look it up, and it's,
It'll
Oh.
increase a little bit every year,
Well,
but it's going
it's
to
for
be.
24 years.
It's,
so-
it will never get more than $50,000 in a year combined, but I think at some point we'll be getting about $50,000 a year.
Well, it's a good supplement to help some programs, so.
Yeah, I think we
It
can,
it is, so.
this is a guide from the Attorney General's office. It says, step 1, understand your community's needs. Step 2, prioritize those needs. Use a blueprint with core principles. Identify, your next steps. Spend money to save lives, and it's like, don't spend it all at once. Use evidence to guide spending. Invest in youth prevention. Focus on equity to all groups, and a transparent process. So,
Can we tie in that report mental health in a way too, that just, I guess this, you talked about the
Yep, so-
CDCC, so that's, you already
yeah,
mentioned
for
that.
sure though,
but-
yeah, we can include that as part of it.
Sheriff, I'm sorry to put you on the seat right now. We're discussing the opioid settlement, and what we're trying to do is develop a report. You can just come right to the chair there. We would like to hear your thoughts about the best way we can supplement what, we've talked about several things already. I'm sorry that, I know it's hard to get in a discussion, you haven't heard the first 10 minutes, but we're kind of waiting for your thoughts on just what your priorities would be on where we could probably supplement, not develop a new program, but supplement some programs that we already have to enhance our ability to be more effective, so.
So I apologize for being late. I intended to be here. I was listening in, so I did. capture
Okay,
your
so you know
discussion.
where we're at, then. I'm sorry to dial you in, and if you
No, you're
don't know
fine.
where we're at.
You're fine. So I don't know that I have any definitive conclusions either. But what is true is, and I'll just state pretty much the same the attorney stated, and that's, this stuff is, it's real, it's here, and it's here big time. And we've had a deputy exposed in a medical call. We don't know how that would have turned out if not for Narcan. So Narcan, I think, is kind of a focus of where we can go, at least for now, with this. There is a coalition put together that includes the health department and the hospitals and the sheriff's office and several other entities. They're meeting monthly, and I know that coalition is already kind of spearheading that need. I did speak to the fire district last week about it would be prudent for them to have it on board because they're often in the same type of climates as we are. And so just to address up front where we're at with the presence of fentanyl, which is at least 100 times more potent than heroin, we need to have some safeguards in place. Deputies are carrying Narcan, EMS is carrying Narcan, but as you can imagine, everyone is faced with the same plight. Everyone's wanting Narcan, including the public. So the sourcing for this is pretty limited. So it would help to have some money up front in order to argue that, look, we are able to pay for this if we can just get it and make sure we have it. I don't have any idea how much more we would actually need, but the fact we would need more is true.
Do you have an idea that what a dose of Narcan costs?
It depends on where it's been coming from. We've been able to purchase it, and we've also been able to acquire it free of charge. So some of it's been donated for public safety. And But the market is such right now, I don't know if that's sustained. I don't, Counselor. I wish I had a better idea how much it is per dose. We certainly figure that out, where we're having to buy it, how much it's cost.
I
So-
was-
Go ahead.
I was in a first aid class, and at that time, and this was a couple of months ago, they said that if you went to purchase it at the drugstore or something, it'd be over $100.
Yeah, it's,
And it does expire.
a side note on this, part of what's alarming is, as expensive as that is, and I don't want to give ideas either, but the fact is it's already occurring. Folks that are addicted to this, who are experimenting with this, meaning fentanyl, are actually purchasing Narcan in order to have it so that they can have what they refer to as Narcan parties. And they risk their lives. It's a Russian roulette with fentanyl, and they're able to revive their partner buddies if they go too far. So so now the Narcan is actually being abused. But
So-
anyway, it's still a very, very effective, it's the only thing we've got to counteract these overdoses. It's effective beyond fentanyl, the other opioids. If there are overdose situations there, it's very effective. If you ever see its effect and how it works, it is literally like bringing someone back from death. It's an amazing tool.
So you made a comment that we had a deputy exposed to this. Explain, I'm sorry I'm so naive.
Right, well,
So
we
can
had
this-
we had put this out some time ago, but we went on a medical call in Meadow. Female was found unresponsive in a public restroom, and that got called in, and we obviously dispatched a response to that, including EMS, our deputies, and there were private citizens there trying to assist. In the melee of all of that, somehow, and Narcan was administered, and the patient came to, and the patient was able to say that she was using fentanyl, that was a fentanyl overdose, and indicated that the fentanyl was in a personal item of hers, and that was carefully dealt with. But even with all the safety that was practiced by the deputies, one of them was exposed somehow, and we don't
So
know.
there's liability with just contact. Okay, that's,
It's
I'm just
extremely
trying to-
dangerous.
yeah.
The margin of error with fentanyl.
you don't have to be using it, just
No.
the contact. Okay,
No,
that's.
it's very, very dangerous,
Clarify
very dangerous
what
to
you're
be
saying.
around, yes.
Okay.
And the counselor made the point that the problem with it is not pharmaceutical grade, right? And it's not controlled pharmaceutically. One batch can be hardly effective at all, and the next batch could kill an entire community. So there's no control in the criminal world.
So one of the priorities, I guess, Pat, too, would be that we might evaluate and look at the people, the agencies that we can make Narcan available to that would be the most productive.
Sure, that's
And-
great.
And make sure it don't get in the hands of those that's abusing it or what. That would be one of our priorities, so.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a good one.
Yeah, I
Go
agree
ahead,
with,
Commissioners.
with
Any comments?
trying to get Narcan as much as we can to you people, because you're the ones that are probably going to be the first ones there. And as far as the education programs go, I know for years they did the DARE program for the middle school age students, and had great intentions, but I agree with Attorney Finlinson. I don't think it quite got the results that they were hoping for, and I think if we're going to put some extra money somewhere, I would agree with getting Narcan for the
I
sheriff's
think last year they
office.
started a new program they replaced there, didn't they? I don't know what it's called, but it's a different format than the DARE program.
Right, so we've been teaching Nova in the schools, but it still addresses drug use and such, and making good decisions.
See, a good speaker might not get the youth to do it, Pat.
Right? Yeah.
See?
I think as a part of educating people, we still need to educate the true danger that's been here and is only getting worse. And while I have the forum chair, let me educate us all just a little bit more about the fentanyl plague. The precursors or the components to make fentanyl, the vast majority of it that's coming into our country, this isn't a political It's not a political statement. These are facts. These are proved by the law enforcement experiences. Fentanyl is coming across the Mexico-United States border in amounts that are just dumbfounding. Mexico, the cartels are pressing the fentanyl components into pills or other forms, and that's being illegally transported across the border. Those components, by and large, are being supplied to Mexico by people in China. So I will make one political statement. If anyone feels like we're not at some stage of war with China, we are, because those precursors are coming from China. The point is we're dealing with amounts that are just absolutely overwhelming. So that's how and why we have a fentanyl plague going on right now.
Thank you. Any more comments?
I think that Bonnie and I can put it together. I think we can do it based on that. We just need to kind of break it out. We'll kind of work on that, and we'll circulate a draft before we send it in to everybody. But I think we can do it based on that.
I'd suggest we get an approval for, you've heard the discussion. I think you know what our priorities are, and you and Bonnie work out with the budget what works and come back to us with something that we could, we're going to need to do it before the next meeting, though, at least.
Well, yeah,
So I need to make a motion that
Make a
you
motion
have a
that we
report-
can-
You can do a report,
you know,
or do we?
honestly, I don't think we even need a
We
motion.
don't need a
We
motion,
need
just
the
we'll give you,
discussion.
go ahead and do the report and get the report sent in.
Okay.
Okay, and then, when you get it completed, obviously, send it to the
I'll circulate
commission.
it, we'll make sure. that-
Circulate it so we know the priorities. Sheriff, we want you to have your input, that we can, I mean, I don't know how many we need, I just think a handful of priorities of what, the things that we can utilize and do, so.
Sure, and aside from the Narcan, we certainly have programming in the jail that assists those that have become addicted, and other avenues by which to use for recovery, prevention, education, that we can also spill some resource into.
Okay.
And I think one thing that is important in this, if this goes on for 20 years, 24 years, as we move from year to year, our priorities might be changing. We might see other things we need to do, and so we need to make this flexible that we get down the road here so we can change our priorities. We may see a better tool, we want to be able to use that tool, that we just don't lock us in forever, so. Thank you, thanks for the discussion.
Before we move on to the next one, I noticed a few people have come in. If you haven't signed the roll, if you could come in and print your name.
Anybody that hasn't signed, go ahead. We're going to go on the next item, Utah Highway Patrol. You want to come forward, and we have a representative here.
So, this is Val, is that I was contacted by the financial.
Okay, Marquis, I'll turn the time over to you and the mic there.
So, I was contacted by the financial office of Utah Highway Patrol. They lease an office space down the basement of the public safety building, and that is coming due for renewal. So he was just wondering if the amount that they have been paying the county is sufficient to, this was 5 years ago, or if it needs to be increased. So I contacted Auditor Smith, and it's very low. So she's kind of done something that she would present to you guys, but it's not our decision if it needs to be increased or not, and then they just need to know so that they can put the new amount in the lease.
So, Auditor Smith, I don't want to put you, you did a little research, and is there something that would be consistent with other things we do in the county? That's what we want to look for, I guess.
Well,
If we need to change this, be consistent with what the values of the property is.
Right, and
Talk louder.
I didn't spend very much time at all. In fact, Clerk Rowley just gave me the total. I just plugged it into a CPI calculator that's available online at the US level, federal level, on the CPI calculator based on the amount. That's just a simple, quick, easy way to calculate it if that's the intent of the.
So what is the rent lease space now?
And it's not letting me sign into my email. Marky, do you have that? So, So I don't know how the amount was decided upon 5 years ago, but if that's the amount, and then if you just calculate inflation on top of that, that's as simply as it is. And maybe that's not right. That's just a simple, quick, easy way.
So what they're currently paying is $569 a month, $6,828 a year. And I don't remember an increase being discussed 5 years ago when they renewed it.
So Bonnie, when you plug that in, what did it come up with?
You have it. It's not that meeting, it's my email.
Bonnie, will you come here? It doesn't show a monthly amount.
No, it was.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so when she plugged it in, it came up to $8,267.39. And currently, we're paying $6,828.
6,000, okay. Should this be a 5-year lease, Attorney Finlayson, or a year, or what do you recommend? Whatever we want. Okay.
They've been preparing the lease, and it will be, they've requested another 5 years.
5 years, okay.
And they wanted to know what the increase was before they prepared that new lease.
So what's that, $700-800 a month or whatever, that's a couple $1,000, okay? So to the commission, does the sheriff or the highway patrol have any comments? None, okay.
How big of a space?
The highway
do we
patrol
know?
budget's really big because the sheriff tells us about that all the time, so we can assume they have the money, so. Go ahead. If you have no comments, I'll come back to the commissioners for questions, and I need a decision to make a motion.
Do we know how big is the area?
Here comes the sheriff, he's gonna give us a comment.
I'm looking at inflation, but I'm also looking at more of a fair market value for the area as well.
So historically, they had a bigger footprint than they do now. In 2018, they transferred some administrative functions. They had 2 additional offices. Those were brought back to the sheriff's office, and that contract was amended so that they weren't paying for those 2 extra offices. That being said, they occupy 1 formal office, a closable office, and then a basic squad area that has a large table. They have space along the walls for their different electronics and for lockers for all of them. And then, of course, we serve as an evidence storage point for them as well. So actually, I don't know square footage-wise. Sergeant Kelsey, do you know square footage? I don't.
975.
975. And that's what was probably calculated on the last adjustment for space in 2018.
This is the reduced version. It went down to 975 feet when we gave up the extra office.
Okay, so that would be current,
That's the actual.
975.
Okay, back to the commission for questions.
Adam, would you by chance know what kind of office space is going for around? I know maybe that's not necessarily,
Yeah, there's.
sorry to put you on the spot,
It's kind of like trying to price a vehicle by how many wheels or doors it has. You're going to find typically close to $180 to $200 a square foot, but that could be, it will be entirely dependent upon what type of structure and the level of finishes and what amenities it has. It could be a very broad range from half that to double or triple that. But for 900 square feet, 975, I believe, is,
Yeah, 975.
are we presuming it's basically a block building? And then typical finishes, something like we'd have in a regular office space? And then, yeah, I would imagine you'd be in the $180 to $200 range per
A
square.
month or?
Per square foot.
Per-
Are we talking cost to build?
No.
Rent?
To rent.
Oh, nope, sorry, don't know that.
No, okay. Okay.
So their current lease is at a figure of $7 per square foot, and I realize what you're attempting to address here, and I don't differ from that at all. And just briefly lobby that the Highway Patrol is a very, very significant law enforcement partner of ours, and their ability to house with us only increases our ability to communicate with them and serve with them. We have a relationship that I would say is unlike most in the state as far as county and DPS. So I just want to just get that out there, that this affiliation that we have because they're able to lease inside with us is phenomenal.
So Sergeant Kelsey, do you know if the Highway Patrol could afford $690 a month rent? That's basically what it is.
It's not a month, right?
Well, this is if you divide it out.
That's probably not something I should speak to, what the state's budget is. I don't know what their preference would be. Obviously, like any renter, lower is better, right?
Well, they came to us and said, we want to pay you more money. So,
They came and asked, right?
That there was an increase, that they wanted to make sure that they were paying us a fair rate.
So, it would be inappropriate for me to answer if that's something what they're comfortable with or what they're not. We'd have to ask
Okay.
Salt Lake or ask the fiscal department, but I can only echo what the sheriff says. Our remaining inside the building is certainly worthwhile to us, the ability to just walk down the hall and speak to the sheriff and resolve things instead of having to come from our own building somewhere else in town or something. There's huge advantages to that. The sheriff's office takes very good care of us, and we've tried to take good care of them. We've recently built a new impound yard behind the sheriff's office, and then deeded that back to the county after we constructed it. So he's right. I've worked for 30 years now in many different counties, and the state and Millard County is far above most of the other counties I've worked in. In fact, I know one sheriff's office we're pulling out of right now and moving to a city police department and partnering up with them. So the state's constantly moving back and forth with whatever's in their best interest, but I do often have administrators in our department from other counties that comment on my relationship with Millard County and with the deputies here. So it's
Well, we want to keep you here.
certainly in our best interest to stay together, of course, but what that equates to, we'd have to pitch to Mr. Christensen. Wayne Christensen is the fiscal agent who's managing this, and he's the one that would have to say he's comfortable with it.
I would think that under current circumstances, that shouldn't be a prohibitive. You're getting increases everywhere. So I think what Bonnie suggested, from my opinions, are probably, obviously, we need we have a responsibility to taxpayers and citizens and stuff like this. And I think I can see the response, the convenience, and it helps both our county sheriffs and highway patrol to have that association there. So we would hope that we don't get to the point that we price you out, and
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that would, so.
No.
But we want you there. We want you to stay there.
That's where we want to be.
We want to stay there, so. Any other comments? You ready for a motion or what?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go with Bonnie's recommendation with the CPI calculator, national increase.
I think that gives us a good idea what's going on, and of course, our expenses of, utilities and that has increased significantly since then too, so. Second to that motion.
I second that motion.
Have a motion second that we go with the figure that Bonnie gave us to say. Discussion to that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, so,
I'll relay that information to them and
okay.
let you know if there's
All right, thank you.
There is, I want to keep them here.
Next item. Bonnie, are you up again? Oh, you are, okay. You're the only one left. Richard, go ahead. Discussion regarding rolling over remaining employees in the Transamerica 401K to the Utah Retirement System 401K plan.
Okay.
So go ahead, Richard's going to present.
Okay, years ago, the county offered more than one option for a 401K. Over time, the county decided they were going to just have every new employee, give them only one option to go to Utah Retirement Systems. So over time, the ones that were in this Transamerica are retiring. We're down to 5 participants right now.
You're one of them, right?
I'm the trustee.
Okay.
I'm one of them. We've been talking for quite some time that it's time that we probably terminate that and just move everyone into the URS. I have I send emails to 2 of them, and I haven't heard anything back from them. It's 2 of the road department employees. The other 3, myself and 2 others, I've talked to them, and they're fine with going forward with looking at what it would take to roll over into the URS.
Is there a loss in funds when you do that or not? Just a different plan?
No, it would just roll right over
Okay,
into the
all right.
URS. Their money would just go directly.
Financially, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
at all. Okay.
So what they've got in there would all just roll right into the URS.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it's going to take to do that. I've talked to a guy from Transamerica, and he was going to try and get some information to me, and I haven't heard back from him. But there should be no problem. A few years ago, they gave some of the employees, or some of the participants, the option to stay in the Transamerica or roll over to URS, and there was no problem with it, the rollover at that point. So I think we're just going to have to get with URS and Transamerica and figure out how to make it work.
Okay.
But
I
we
guess
just
it's-
wanted to make, in talking to Bonnie, we just thought we need to make sure that the commissioners knew that we were looking at doing that, even though there's,
Okay. To the commission for discussion, comments, motions.
I think
whatever.
if the,
We don't need a motion, just a
and I
discussion.
think he's researched it out and he understands that it can happen, and I'm sure it can. 'Cause I know that you can take
Yeah,
it from one retirement savings and put it into another.
yeah,
so.
as time's gone on, we had quite a few participants in the Transamerica, but they just keep retiring and their funds leave, and so we're down to, I think, 750, right around there, 750,000 in total assets there, which in the past we've been 4 or 5 million at least. So it continues to drop, and
Is that not even available anymore, or Transamerica, or whatever? it was?
no, the county
All right,
made the decision quite a while ago that
not to use them.
that they were only allowing new hires that option to go with URS, so there's just a few of us stragglers that were still in the Transamerica.
I go ahead and, said I don't think
Well-
there needs to be a motion, just thanks for
No,
letting
I
us
think-
know. and
Okay, we'll just,
Just move
Just
forward.
go
with
ahead
it.
and work
We'll
with
just
Bonnie
move
and get
forward
them.
and-
And if you have issues, let
we
us
need to.
know how we can help you, but
okay,
between you and Bonnie, have at it, have
all right.
fun.
Thank you.
Next item, do we have any financial review besides what we already discussed? So, Mayor Trice.
Bonnie, real quick, the Millard Care and Rehab meeting, they stated we could start sending them a bill for the loan on their kitchen. I can get with you later too, but
They just want to get it retired? They just want to get that bond off?
they just said start sending us a bill, so.
Nice.
How much have we got left on that? 250?
Oh. 28 years? I don't know, how long did we bond it for? Probably 28 years.
28 years?
But it's not much. I mean, I think they had talked about, when we first did it, they had talked about actually just paying it off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, maybe it wasn't a 30-year, maybe it was just a 5-year, but, yeah.
All right, thank you. Anything else with finances? Nothing, public input? Any comments or from the public? Other business?
I got some.
I got a couple too. Go ahead, Pat.
You go ahead and I'll keep working
I'll
on this.
go
and
ahead,
get this
keep
done.
working on this. Economic development, a couple years ago, we had a contract with, I don't know what their name is, Stewart and Patrick. That contract has been in our budget. We did not get the new contract signed. It's the same as the old one. I sent that to Pat, and so it's basically the same. We just need approval to go ahead and proceed with that, so. Is there any more, have you got the contract, or did they, okay. Is there any discussion? Pat, you reviewed it?
Nothing.
We're good?
And it's just for the remainder of this year, is that?
Yeah, it's for a
Okay.
year. It's a 1-year contract at a time.
Okay.
So, okay. Just need a motion that we go ahead and sign that and send it back.
I make a motion that we send it back.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
a motion to sign
Probably
the.
the motion would be to approve the contract.
Okay.
What's
Make a
that?
motion to approve the contract.
Okay. For economic development, for
Stuart Clausen.
Stewart and
Patrick.
Patrick.
Who has that contract?
Pat has it right now.
Oh, so you'll get me the contract?
Get you a copy.
I guess, I mean, you sent it to me, but
I'm the
just
one
to
who sent it to
review.
you?
No, Bill sent it to
Oh,
me to
okay.
review.
Okay.
I
I
think
guess
have
I
it in my
got it
email.
and sent it to Pat, is what I did, so,
Okay, I just need a copy in the clerk's office, the original.
all right. I don't know if I can refine it. Pat can probably refine it, he's reviewed it.
I'll
so
find it.
Okay,
He'll find it and get it to you.
thank you.
I have a motion and a second that we sign the contract. Any discussion?
I think with the contract next year, I think it needs to be heavily discussed if we're getting our
Okay.
money's worth, though. That's,
I would suggest by the end of the year, we have some goals
okay,
and perimeters, and we sit down and the more appropriate time would be in our budgeting, what we're gonna do, that would be the appropriate time. So
Okay.
just bring that to our attention. We need
Okay.
to have them come in and present. We just kinda got behind the 8 ball this year with
Yeah,
the
yep.
changes, so. All in favor to sign it indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Okay, thank you very much. A couple of things I wanted to bring just to the commissioners. You've received the proposal for the racetrack. So, I think, is there any, they had one that Jerry who.
Well, they had 2 options.
2 options. I guess I just wanted to bring it up. Is them contracts, they haven't presented them to Jerry yet. Is either one okay, or what?
I sent an email to Brendan,
Okay.
and I'm kind of waiting to hear back from him to see what he has to say on the question that I had, and he's not here, so, but I didn't mind both of them. I think it's really,
Well, just get your questions solved, because when we go back to Jerry, we'll discuss, and then we'll make a motion and approve it or not. But
Yeah.
it don't matter to us, I guess. We're just trying to move forward.
yeah. No, I thought they both looked good, so it's,
Well, didn't Brendan work with Elise to come up with that?
yeah, Lease wrote them.
Alicia's been written,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I thought they looked good.
But before we can do much, he needs to go to Jerry, and then Brendan will have to come back and report to us
Yeah.
what we want.
which one they're
Yeah,
gonna
this is
go
gonna
with.
work the best. So, if you have no more comments, we'll
No.
go on for that. I guess a question, Trevor, landfill, we wanted to get a resolution to maybe Pat says we need a resolution to accept the solar panels, so maybe let's work on that.
Okay.
See, unless there's any prohibition or something.
Okay, I'll get with
Let's
Pat.
go ahead and get that resolution to,
Okay.
we do need a resolution, I guess, Pat, is that correct? For solar
Yeah, based on what I
panels?
understand, it sounds like it would
Yeah, okay.
require us to do a little
And
bit
we
more.
need to
than-
come up, work with John, we need to get some,
I probably need a little bit more information than I have
see
to,
what's
but I'll talk to
happening.
Trevor.
Yeah, we need to come up with I don't think it's no problem, we just need to come up with a fee. Is what, if Pat writes a resolution, we gotta have a fee in there, correct, Pat, or?
Yeah, but I need, I'll work with Trevor, get what we
Okay,
need
work-
figured out.
Work with Trevor and get that. I have a sheet here that come from the Treasurer's Office. I just wanted to make y'all aware, Utah State Tax Commission Property Tax Division, the values of the centrally assessed. So we're always confronted with it. This is not new, but because of the depreciation, the total values of the centrally assessed, this lists all the centrally assessed properties. We're talking about everybody. But this is what they was assessed, what their assessment will be. Of course, we don't know what it'll finally be because we get several appeals. So, but the total value is over 200 million less than last year. Now that continues to go down. There's a couple properties on here. So we are seeing a little bit of revenue from the increased activity that's gone out there, CWIP and some other stuff. So there's a couple entities on here that has gained more than their depreciation. So just so you're aware, as we get into the budget year, why, again, it continues to get less and less and less. You're welcome to look at this. We actually think there's probably, Bonnie, we actually think there might be some mistakes on here. I don't know. Because there's particularly one entity that has decreased a bunch.
Yeah,
like 80 or 90 million.
Yeah, and I have myself contacted the State Tax Commission
Yeah.
and Lucas Hendrickson, he's over that whole division, and they're aware of it and they're looking at it. So those are preliminary values that came out, and I know Sherry looked at them and I was looking at them and just comparing percentage changes and looking for, and there's some big changes, one of which is the telecommunications is no longer on the centrally assessed. And that will be a big change. Those will be locally assessed, and I talked to Assessor Pat Manus about that too, and there's concern that there's going to be some escape value based on the way that it's changing, and legislation acknowledged that. And, you know, the final values, we've let them know, final values aren't expected until late, after close of business Wednesday night, so.
Yeah, this is preliminary, and
Yeah.
of course, all these are self-reporting. So there's a couple on here that Sherry noticed, particularly in the Treasurer's Office and Bonnie, that there's a big difference. And so what they'll do is go back to make sure their figures are right and everything, but.
I hope
but
so.
This is a list of all the centrally assessed properties we have, if you would like to look at this way.
I'll look at it afterwards.
Information, just look at it, might be interesting who's centrally and who isn't, so. Okay, nothing else, thank you, Bonnie. We'll go on to discussion on possible appointments of various boards.
Oh, I've got something
Okay,
else.
go ahead, other business. Well, then we need to go to Pat. Pat hasn't brought his business up yet. So go ahead.
I don't know if you two received this email from the state of Utah, Department of Natural Resources, but I mentioned, I think in the last meeting, that the BLM is proposing a new rule change where conservation groups can actually lease the land and keep everybody off of it. And I know the state of Utah and state of Wyoming have joined together to help fight against it. They had a deadline of April 20th for people to comment. I commented on it, but now there's a new deadline, and the state is trying to get all of the counties to write a letter opposing this new rule change, and I don't know if our county's interested in it or not. It gives all the background information. It gives even a couple of possible letters that you could pattern our disagreement with this proposed change. There's a couple of example letters, so I don't know if our county wants to participate in this or not, but I thought I'd bring it up.
In my opinion, I would suggest to you, our county has traditionally stood in opposition of really what's happening and think the use of public lands should go back to the way it more traditionally was.
Yeah,
So
if
my
this-
suggestion would be that you work with Marquis or Pat and we, I'm already, as a commissioner, that I would be willing to sign a letter as a commissioner that we.
Because they want,
We're
it
opposing
would
those
pretty much
changes.
stop recreation, grazing, mineral extraction, energy production, anything that happens on public BLM lands, these conservation groups would just shut it all down.
Well, what's happened, these conservation groups has got a lot of contributors that are coming and leasing grazing ground and a variety of other stuff and basically shutting down any production on them for recreation, for basically mineral lease and everything else. So that is detrimental, particularly in this county, those kind of actions, if they come in here and very active, becomes detrimental to our budget and funds because we all receive a little bit of revenues with federal lands as they've been able to have development, leasing, mining, minerals, even our local producers here on livestock, which live here and pay local taxes. If we take those grazing permits away from them, it becomes very restrictive on us as a county and our people in our county. So there's lots of reasons not to allow them to do that.
So are they buying the grazing rights, say, for the
Yeah.
permit holders, or are they leasing the actual ground? And then they
It
don't allow
doesn't
the-
say if they would have to get them from the people that already own, like the grazing rights, but they would, it said, try to get 10-year leases with the government where they would control what happens, and they would just say, we're just going to let nature do its thing, and we're not going to have any activity happening on this land. And so it'd be kind of like when they do that wilderness protection, where if you want to walk across it, you can, but that's about it.
It's the same kind of theory with basically being able to buy up, take away the ability of the people to utilize the public land only for their specific purpose.
And according to this letter, it actually goes against what Congress has passed anyway. And they don't think the BLM has the right to do it, even if the conservation groups can talk them into it. But I think it'd be nice to try to help stop it.
Well, you get back in Washington, there's more of them than us. Is that, I don't know if that describes it. So it is very hard to do these, so.
Yeah, I mean, this letter says it should stay under local control, working with the BLM, the state and counties working with the BLM instead of letting conservation groups.
Well, I'd give my endorsement. If you want to get something drafted, work with Markey and then Pat look at it and see what. I would suggest maybe in the past being in a position where we have received a lot of those farm letters, that we might use some of the tools that they've suggested, but I think there's some things consistent with our county here, and they need to be made note of our
Yeah.
county.
Well, in here, they
There's
say,
specific things, this is how it would affect, I don't know whether you want to put projected, anticipated dollars, but we put some things in there like, this is how it would affect us personally, and make that a little more personal than, yeah, we agree with everybody else, so.
yeah, they don't want all the letters to be exactly
Yeah.
the same. They want it to be more personalized for each county.
And they emphasized that up at that UAC meeting a couple weeks ago, is to bring up things that are in our community and not just national general concerns.
Any other comments? We good? Okay, thank you. Go ahead and just follow through with that if you would. Okay. You got any other business? Vicki?
We advertised, as far as appointments to various county boards. We advertised the Housing Authority. Did we get any applicants for that? Okay, all right, yeah, that's the next
You're good.
agenda item.
Trevor,
I don't have
you
anything
any
else.
business, Pat?
Yep, I got a little bit today. We
Okay.
had our annual USIP risk coordinator meeting last week. And I mentioned before that there were a dizzying number of bills in the legislature this past session. They set a record for the number of bills that affect the counties. Most of them I won't talk about, but just a couple of things. I'll need to work with the auditor's office and find out a little bit more about how our volunteers are registered and stuff. There were a few bills that affected law enforcement volunteers and just volunteers generally. This wasn't a legislative issue, it was just a coverage issue, but we need to revise our personal use policy pretty quickly and pretty dramatically. We tried, after the state, it's probably been 2 or 3 years ago, the state passed legislation that made any private use of public property a felony unless the county had a policy that specified. So we created one that was fairly generous, but way too generous. We need to actually define exactly what those uses are. We can't leave them up to department heads and elected. The commissioners have to say what is an acceptable use of public property. And what ours said was that if it was incidental and occasional use, and it didn't diminish the value of the property, didn't subject the county to any liability, it didn't violate any laws, and there were 2 or 3 other criteria, but it left it pretty broad. And we've known that that's been pushed pretty far by some of our departments anyway, but it became clear at this meeting that we may void at least that part of our crime policy unless we get that fixed. So I'll propose some changes and get those circulated before the next meeting and have them put that on for an amendment by our next meeting.
So what we need to do is a stricter definition and then maybe define a penalty, I guess. It looks what they're asking for.
I mean, the penalties are prescribed by state statute. We don't need to do that.
All right.
But what we need to do is tie it down a lot more narrowly as to what personal use of public property can be. And I think the anticipation was if you're up north on county business in a county car and you stop at Walmart on the way home, or if you're, little incidental things like that are okay, but.
Do they want them limit? They're okay.
No, I don't think that's a problem. The problem is that ours has been interpreted much more broadly, and we've had a lot of use of public property that's clearly not anticipated by the state statute. So I'll get something drafted and circulated, and hopefully we can get that one tied.
It'd be well to see if we have some examples too so we're clear on what should
Well,
and
that's what we
shouldn't be
need.
and
We
stuff
need-
like
I mean,
that.
it will have to have some actual enforceable parameters. What
So-
our other policy did is it left it largely to the department heads. They were supposed to have written policies on what that meant, but none of them do. But,
Do you feel we haven't been, or they feel, I guess, we haven't been clear enough, or do you feel there's a void there?
well, they never looked at our policy, but I know for a fact that we haven't been clear enough. Yeah, ours
Okay.
is not even close. Ours
Okay,
would-
all right.
Our policy would void our coverage.
Coverage,
Yes.
okay. So if
would
we
not-
want, what you're saying, if we want insurance.
We would
need
not
to-
have insurance
we would
coverage if
not
there was a
have
claim on that,
insurance.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, there's no question at all about that. So we need to
So
move fairly
this is
quickly
an
on that.
FYI, you'll get us some information
Yeah,
that
I'll
we
get
can look
that.
at and have that
That has kind of
discussion.
become a priority since that meeting. I've been working on some changes there. I've had some conversation with the auditor, and I think we're moving toward a resolution of that. The open and public meetings bill that was proposed, the final version only applied to school boards, but it will be back. There'll be a lot more direction to every public entity on open and public meetings. But the one thing that we probably need to be working on is rules of order for the county commission. And thankfully, USIP are preparing some draft rules for as a starting point for all of its member counties to work with. So just rules of order.
Is it more restringent or just more defined, so we understand better?
No, well, everybody says that we operate under Robert's Rules of Orders, but we don't even come close. I mean, you understand it better than any of us, and none of us understand them. But we've.
I try to understand them.
But we just need to, and what it all stems from is public input. We need to have some actual rules in place about public input in the county meetings. Because we can't, it has to be a part of every meeting, but we'll.
Well, I know when I don't know what every county does, but I see examples when we go to 6th County and which are county people, and they don't operate by any of those rules at all, so I'm assuming a lot of them don't, but we've tried to identify some and operate by them.
And just coverage updates, they wanted us to make everybody aware, and I think we're okay here, but that road bridges are not covered under USIP for flood damage. Any other damage to property by a flood is, but the bridges are not. I think that ours are pretty well taken care of. We're in pretty good shape, but I guess there've been some claims submitted from some other areas, and they said those are explicitly excluded from coverage. I think that's about it there. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, that we need to make some actual ordinance changes to our road ordinance. As you know, spring is road season. I spend about half of my time every spring dealing with road access issues.
Gates closed or not closed?
Gates closed, not closed. Yeah, it's honestly, that's not an exaggeration. Half of my time in the spring, we've laughed and we started calling it road season. But to be honest, I hadn't really looked at the county's ordinance on vacating a road or even the county's ordinances on classification of roads, because state law governs those things, but our ordinance is not consistent with state law.
Okay.
So what I think I'm gonna do is propose some revisions that basically just reference the state code. Where the state governs, there's no point in us repeating it in our ordinance.
Yeah.
We can just reference it. So I think that's what I'm gonna do there, and then we need, and I think both Adams are aware of this, and we've kind of put our heads together a little bit, but we need a new transportation map this year sometime. That we'll kind of keep that on your mind too. We just need to kind of keep that updated and make sure that we've got something that's usable for the public.
Okay.
Then I've got a few contracts when we get to contracts too, so.
All right, since you brought up bridges, I'd like to, I guess, just so you're in, IPA or IPP is getting some large generation equipment or generators delivered to the plant out there. Matt's been very helpful. I just want to recommend Matt's been very helpful with me on this. The company that's transporting them called us. It weighs like 1 million pounds, so it's pretty big and heavy. And we told them, oh, don't come across our road, go to the state. Well, they went to the state, and the state won't let them across the road. So we've Matt's worked out an agreement with them that we're concerned about bridges and stuff. They actually have a company that bridges a bridge. I can't define it all, but they'll lay down a platform that actually goes from one side of these canals to the other that protects the bridge, keeps all the weight off the bridge and all the weight's on that. So Matt followed through working with them and working through IPP that I don't anticipate, but if there is anything, destruction or anything like that, that we could consider that in the alleviation. So thank you, Matt. We appreciate that. That company says they will be through here, so we'll probably, we've informed our road supervisor, I think on June 5th till 7th, they'll be coming through the county, and they're going to unload those generators wherever they make them. I don't know. Matt, you might know, in back east, they're going to unload them off the train in Las Vegas, and they're bringing them up through Ely and over and into the plant, just so. We've
Probably
had
make them in Germany, don't they?
Germany or somewhere. So, but anyway, they are heavy. So, anyway, but that's the way I don't know. Hopefully we solve the problem. So Matt has worked with us on that, so thank you very much, Matt, so. Let's see. Have you got another item? Okay.
Yeah, it's business license.
Business license, okay.
We paid yesterday, so at the next meeting, if you're okay with that.
Pat, it sounds like the state legislature created a lot of work for you.
Yep.
Redo.
So everybody, all of the county offices got pretty dumped on by the legislature this time.
There was like over 500 bills passed.
No, there was like 800, over 800, wasn't there?
Affecting counties.
Oh, right,
Affecting
yeah.
county. Was any of them helpful?
I don't think so, but
I should make a goal of doing it the least amount possible, not a goal of, let's do as many as we can, see how many.
I agree with that.
This is the coffee truck. I think they're going to be mostly based at IPP.
Yeah, is it? A vendor? This is a vendor, like, they've increased significantly, 5 years ago there wasn't any, and now we have a lot.
Most of them are.
That's the most economical way to provide a food service, is through a vending truck.
I don't think Pat's seen it. He'll show it.
Okay, you've seen
Don't you
it?
need to sign it? Do I need
I-
to make a motion?
It's on the back page where it goes.
I make a motion to approve business license for Ugly Mug LLC.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion to approve business license for Ugly Mug LLC. Got a motion and a second. Discussion of that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, we can go back to this resolution if you'd like.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
This is just their resolution put into our form. It's exactly the language they circulated to the three of you. I took a lot of the superfluous stuff out, but I didn't add anything. It's their same language you've already seen.
This is a resolution to approve the interlocal agreement with Six County.
I make a motion to approve resolution 23-05-23.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve, what is it, 23 dash?
23-5-23.
0-505-23. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion to that? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Do you need that?
I call for roll call vote on resolution 23-05-23 as discussed. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
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 Signature page for that. You can pass that out to her.
Thank you, Pat, for that quick work. Do you need this back, or does it go to Marquis? Okay.
We just need to get it to.
That need to be
Travis.
emailed. We got a six-county meeting tonight. We could deliver that, or...
Why don't you let Marky get it scanned, and then we can just send the originals with you to Six County tonight?
Okay, yeah, just maybe send that.
Well,
Okay.
we have to. They have to, it's not one where they can, and we'll keep the original resolution. We don't need to send that, but we need to just scan and get a copy of the,
Scan and get a copy of what, Pat?
I'll bring you back the original for signature, but just,
the agreement is useless until everybody signed it, so it's not like we're hanging on. We don't need to stress about keeping the original agreement. We just need to keep the original resolution. So just send the original contract, the original interlocal with Bill, and a copy of the resolution.
Okay, we good? All right, thank you. No other business, let's go on to no boards. You answered your question there. Possible approval of application for settlement of deferral of delinquent property tax.
Just a sec, I think Mark was going to,
Go ahead.
Did you do the boards?
Yeah, I thought we was done. Go back, okay.
Yes, so we advertised for
You got the housing? Okay.
Housing Authority
Go ahead,
Board.
I'm sorry.
And I received one person who was interested, James Pearson, excuse me, from Delta. That's the only one. I don't know how many vacancies there were.
there's actually 2 vacancies.
Okay.
We kind of like somebody from this area to get on there also.
Okay.
So can we run that longer?
Either,
Do we have, how do we do this?
You can, or you can just find somebody after it's been
Yeah.
run.
so
If
that's,
if nobody applies, you can go find somebody.
so now it's up to you, and then just.
Yeah, you can just go find someone and ask them to serve.
So that's,
If you've already run it, if there's no way.
Today?
Okay, Vicki, that's,
here she
you know,
Okay. I make a motion that we approve James Pearson to be a member of the Housing Authority Board.
I second it.
I have a motion, a second, to approve Jamie to be member of the Housing Authority Board. Any more discussion? None? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Go ahead.
Okay, and then that same thing happened on the Hinkley Desert Cemetery District. There were 3 vacancies, only one.
What's
person.
this, what,
This is the Hinkley Desert
Hinckley
Cemetery
Desert
District.
Cemetery?
It has
Okay.
been advertised, and only one person showed interest. There were 2 remaining seats, so that board went and found 2 people, Christopher Palmer and Mikkel Manus, so we just need to.
okay. Who's over there? You?
I am.
Okay, Trevor, go ahead and make a motion.
I make a motion to approve, it's Cal Manus, must be Cal Manus and
Cal
Christopher
Manus.
Palmer to the
I second
Deseret
that
Oasis
motion.
Hinckley Cemetery District Board.
Okay, I have a second. Motion and a second that we approve the 2 names that's been presented. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, aye. Any opposed, no. Okay, thank you, they're approved.
And then during this meeting, I received an email from Brandy Roberts with the Great Basin Heritage Board. They are wanting to replace Abe Johnson, and they've submitted a name. I don't think we've ever advertised this one in the past. I don't know if they need to. I know in the past I've just sent a letter saying that the commission approved their suggested appointment.
To be honest, I don't even know what that board is. I mean, I assume it has something to do with the,
Pat's working on boards.
I don't know what, if that's a special service district. I don't know what our authority is on that one. I have no idea, so.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure
don't
either,
think
but
it's
I've
a
never
special
advertised for that one.
Service district, is it?
Great Basin Heritage Board. And it's with, like, there's Nevada, I don't know, I don't have it. I guess I can pull it up and tell you, but, yeah, they just submit a name.
I can, I mean, I'm gonna have to look through our stuff and see if I have any formation documents or anything. I don't know what our
I can pull it
role
up.
is
Hold
with
on.
respect
So
to
the
that board.
question would have, if we have any authority, whether it should be advertised or not. I think whatever they want to do is fine, but.
Yeah, in the past, we haven't,
We haven't, okay, let's follow that policy on this one then.
but Pat may need to look at that, because we may not.
I'll tell you what, appoint him, and if we're wrong, we'll do it again the right way.
Okay. I would suggest we proceed. You want to present the name?
So they've got somebody from Ely, so, I guess, so Ely, Shoshone Tribe, Duckwater Shoshone Tribe, Goshu Indian Reservation, Kanash Indian Reservation, Millard County, Utah, and White Pine County, Nevada. So those are the board member seats. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 from Millard County and 4 from Nevada, if that helps
So
you.
Abe was from our county and they want to replace him with
They
who?
want to replace Abe Johnson with Evelyn Warnick.
Okay? Need a discussion or motion?
Does Abe know?
Yes, he was included in the
Okay.
email, but they did make a point to say he is irreplaceable, but they're going to sure try.
They're going to try.
He He would be replaceable in that regard.
He would.
So I make a motion, we appoint Evelyn Warnick to the Great Basin Heritage Board.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and second that Evelyn be appointed to the Great Basin Board. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Any more, or are we done? We're good, thank you very much. That is, isn't it? Let's slip down here, no property taxes. Discussion of each commissioner, county attorney, elected official, and secretary. We've had a lot of discussion already, so we don't have nothing left, thank you. Possible Board of BOE discussion or action? No BOE? Possible review of county policies and contracts?
Yep, lots of contracts.
Okay.
First, the Avalanche contract, and this looks sort of.
What contract?
Avalanche, the tourism marketing
the
thing.
okay.
This looks imposing and ominous, but it's almost all just attachments. What this is it's just our normal terms and conditions that we have to include as part of our procurement code and state law, and then it just references it references the request for proposal, their proposal, and their proposed scope of work agreement, which is really what lays it out. And I think the important things are that it'll be $3,600 a month is what they kind of came to with Kevin. Their proposal was a range, but as they worked through it, what they came to is $3,600 a month. And if we need services that are not included in the scope of work, it's $150 an hour for those things, and we can work those out separately. But other than that, it is just our standard terms that we include with all of our service agreements.
Is that contract for a year?
It's 6 months with, I think, 4 automatic renewals, terminate with 30 days' notice.
Okay. So for a couple of years then,
Yeah.
unless we terminate it
Yep.
after 6 months.
And I think you've all seen everything except just our terms. I think they circulated all of those
Yeah,
other.
they come in and report it and,
I think the only blank was just the amount, just the $3,600 a month. What they had proposed was between $35,000 and $5,000 a month, and after they kind of tied down exactly what they'd be doing, they
Got more
came to
specific.
36, yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you. Need a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the contract for Avalon.
I second that motion.
I got a motion, a second. We approve the contract of Avalon, and that contract, as Pat already explained, we've had lots of discussion on it. Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
I sent you all an email. Several years ago, we had a contract with a collection agency that did our landfill collections on delinquent accounts. We hadn't used that for quite a while. There's, I guess enough accruing that they wanted to do that again. Denton and Paula reached out to Bonneville Collections. They sent us a copy of their just standard terms and conditions for collection. I think in the email I said 18%, but it's actually 20%. Their fee is 20% of what they collect on any of those delinquent accounts. So this is the agreement with Bonneville that we need approval for and signature. And then I also sent just a copy of just a very simple certification that landfill users would sign acknowledging that if their account goes delinquent, they're paying an additional 20% to cover the collection.
So,
We don't need approval, I mean, separate approval on that, but you're not signing that. That's just one that the landfill is going to give to,
yeah, just send out a notice, so they
just to
understand.
individuals, yeah. But this one, we do need approval, and
Have we got, how many delinquent accounts do we have? Probably don't
I
know.
don't know, but
There-
we had Mountain Land Collection stop by, and they think they have an agreement with the landfill. I think it's pretty old.
Oh,
What was that money? Pull your mic closer in.
We had a representative from Mountain Land Collection stop by, and they are under the understanding that they have an account with the landfill, but I believe it's fairly old. Let me see if Vicki can bring
I
it
may
up.
need to pull that and see if there's any kind of exclusivity or if there's a term or anything on it.
So we're saying we already maybe have someone else? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we probably better hold off on that one. I'll let them know.
Okay. So being most of the landfills paid through the power bills, how do,
Well, that's not collecting those. These are collecting
yeah,
commercial.
because they wouldn't have anything to.
Yeah, these are
These are the
collecting,
people driving up,
Yeah, okay.
contractors mostly.
yeah,
all
these
right.
are commercial users, not just the residential users.
So is this like a monthly payment they make, or is it just when they
No, it's on
come to the
volume.
landfill and use it that they
Per
actually?
use, yeah. It's per use. Those are the only ones really that can go delinquent. Just the residential ones really can't because they're collected with.
Is there
facilities.
much there? I haven't never talked to,
It sounds like they've
There's
accumulated
quite a
quite a bit
few.
now.
there's accumulated quite a
Yeah,
bit,
Paula
okay.
has- we've had several conversations with Paula about
Yeah,
how many they've had. and-
okay, all right.
I will work with.
So
the
you want to
auditor.
just look at that and see what we need back?
Yeah, we can get this back on the next one.
I
Okay.
apologize, I had
What's
no
that?
idea.
What's that?
I would have told you sooner, I had no idea, but,
No,
yeah.
I knew that at one time, a long time ago, we used somebody, but I didn't think we used them for years and years and years.
And that might be the case. And Vicki can grab it if we
Okay.
need it done, but.
Right. And then the other thing that I wanted to cover, just all these rodeo and fair contracts. They're all such small amounts, and it's incredibly uneconomical for any of those people to provide us with adequate insurance coverage. So historically, the commission would just waive those requirements for those types of contracts. You've all seen the contracts as Rachel's been sending them through. There's a ton of them, and they're all pretty small. So I think just to cover us, because our procurement code does say the commission can waive those. So what we're basically talking about are indemnity, insurance requirements, and any kind of a hold harmless, which we normally require in any type of a contract. But we know from our history that it's almost impossible to get those things in one of those little just performer contracts.
Does USIP cover us with some of that or not?
Yeah, but the honest truth is, it's really hard to imagine what our risk exposure
yeah,
would be
okay.
on those things.
Because I've heard, yeah, they give us broad, but I didn't know.
They would, I mean,
They'd rather us get contracts, but
it's hard for me to imagine any liability that would be attributable to the country music cover artist.
Yeah.
That wouldn't already be our liability.
Yeah.
Now, the magic guy, maybe that. I mean, if he does something and, he could cause big problems, but those are, normally we'd come in one by one and ask historically, the biggest ones where we'd ask for waivers, and I kind of fought this over the years a little bit but the demolition derby, because that's a huge waiver.
Yeah.
But they'd all come in and say, we can't, it's not economic for us, we can't
do it.
because they'd hand me a general commercial liability policy. And I'd say, well, you've given me the certificate, give me the whole policy so I can show you that they exclude every single risk that could possibly be associated with the demolition derby. They're not going to cover us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the incident where we actually had to deal with that. But these aren't in that ballpark. These are little tiny contracts. They're just basically the fair entertainment contracts that everybody wants us to sign. And under our code, she can sign them as long as they're budgeted for, but they do need approval. But most critically today, what I'm asking for is just kind of a blanket waiver of the indemnity and insurance provisions on those fair contracts. You have an objection to that? You have any issue with that?
Okay, discussion,
I think that
need a
we,
motion.
I don't know how to word this.
I would say the motion would be to, basically, to approve the contracts that Rachel has negotiated for fair performers and to waive the indemnity insurance requirements on those contracts.
I make a motion to what Pat said.
Do you want me to?
No, you could actually just say so moved.
I second that
We need a
motion.
second from you. Okay. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Discussion of that motion. Thanks for the explanation, Pat. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any, no opposed, so thank you very much. Okay. Anything else on contracts?
I think those are all the contracts today.
We're out, okay. I think we're in need of a closed meeting. Is
You
that
know, closed
correct?
meeting with the sheriff and the HR director.
I would entertain a motion, we close this meeting.
I make a motion, we close this meeting and enter into a closed meeting.
For purposes
For-
of discussing pending or current litigation. And I think the
Current
auditor needs to be here too.
litigation.
Okay, for purposes of
Discussing pending
discussing
litigation.
pending litigation and personnel issues.
So it's just pending litigation.
Okay.
I second that motion.
I have a motion, a second, discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We'll now enter a closed meeting.
So for the online meeting purposes, are we done after this? Or, you know, what is?
I don't anticipate any other discussion after this. Do you, Pat? Anything else after?